But that can also turn on you because you can become very proud of yourself. And in fact, we see several times in the New Testament where these guys begin to argue among themselves about who was the coolest and who was the greatest. Matthew chapter 20 and verses 20 through 28, there was actually an argument about who was going to be the greatest among them. So much so that these guys got their mother involved. Can you imagine that? I'm a grown man, but I'm going to get my mom to come tell Jesus how wonderful I am. Moms, let this be a lesson to you. You know, it doesn't matter how great you think your kids are. Don't go into their place of work and tell their boss how wonderful they are, because their boss will think you're crazy. Okay, and that's what happened. The mother of these guys comes in and she sits down and she says, I want you to make sure that one of my sons is on your right and one of your sons is on your left. It's amazing to me that she walks up to him and Jesus looks at her, and the first thing he says is, what do you want? He knows. He knows that she's coming. You know, sometimes you can tell it in a person's walk and in a person's demeanor as they approach you how this conversation is going to go. You know? And I would imagine as their mom came forward that it was probably a pretty intense look on her face. There was a sense of purpose. She looked at Jesus. What do you want? I want my sons to sit on your right and your left. You have no clue what you're asking for, Jesus tells them. And notice this. He quits addressing the mom and starts addressing the boys. That's almost an indicator right there. Boys, if you got something to say, don't send your mama to do it. Have the guts to come to me yourself. You know, don't let somebody else fight your battles. Do it yourself. You don't know what you're asking for. Can you drink the cup I'm going to drink? Oh, yeah, sure we can. And then Jesus tells them, and they're probably getting a little confused. Yes, you're indeed going to drink my cup, but to sit at my right, on my left, is not for me to grant. These places belong to those who they've been prepared for by my Father. Then the others heard about this, and they were mad at him. You know, and what's funny about this, it doesn't really say why they're mad. I'm thinking that some of them were probably mad because they didn't think to ask it first. And then some of them probably heard the conversation and then decided, we're going to act mad so Jesus will think we have this righteous anger about us, and then we won't look as silly as they look. But this humility thing comes in quite a bit. And Jesus said, you know what, I can't just tell these guys to be humble. I've got to show them. And so, even when Jesus wasn't telling them, they saw it. And then we know the ultimate act of humility when Jesus got the basin and filled it with water and went around and washed his disciples' feet. Of course, the third act of humility when he, King of Kings and Lord of Lords, allowed himself to be sacrificed. There's a lack of humility in our lives sometimes. We think sometimes we're better than we are. We need to realize that we're all kind of in the same boat. They lack faith. There's several times in the Gospels where Jesus uses the statement where he begins talking to them by saying, "Oh, you of little faith." Matthew 6:30, 8:26, 14:31, and 16:8 are examples of that, where he begins talking to them by saying, "Oh, you of little faith." In Mark chapter 4, verse 40, he says, "How is it that you have no faith?" And in Mark chapter 16, verse 14, it says, "He rebuked their unbelief and their hardness of heart." Even though they were in the presence of God in the flesh, they still lack faith. Sometimes we lack faith. Sometimes we don't have the faith in God that we ought to have, and that we don't really trust Him like we say that we do. In John chapter 20, verse 30, it says that Jesus did the miracles that He did in the presence of His disciples for their faith to be strengthened. For them to see what God can do. To know that of its capabilities and what He's able to do and how far He's willing to take things. Their faith was increased and strengthened by the things that they saw Jesus do. Our faith should be increased and strengthened by the things that we see God doing each and every day. God is working around us on a constant basis. He's constantly there for us. He's constantly showing us and doing and taking us from where we are to where we need to be. We've all struggled in faith. We've all been there. But we need to realize that faith is strengthened by how much time we spend with the Lord. The more we spend time with Him, the more we're able to see and recognize the things that He's doing. The more we're able to see and recognize how He's working and what is going on. Another thing that they lacked was commitment. They really weren't as committed to Christ as they said that they were. You know, they wanted to die for Him. They said they were Peter. God, I will destroy the entire army before they'll get you. And I mean, and He even displayed that. But when they were in the garden, when the soldiers came to get Him, Peter was going to take them all on by himself. That was a noble, noble thing. But it was also Peter later on who denied Him 3 times. When push came to shove, the commitment was not always there. They loved Jesus and they wanted to be who Jesus wanted them to be, but before the Holy Spirit came and Pentecost happened, they were all holed up in a house, hiding, scared, not willing to go there. In John chapter 17, one of the greatest chapters in the Bible as far as I'm concerned, but Jesus prays. And starting in verse 6, He prays for His disciples. And He prays for these men. And He prays for what they're going to do. And he ends His prayer for them by saying, in verse 18 and 19, "As you sent me into the world, I have sent them into the world. For them I sanctify myself, that they too may be truly sanctified." The commitment wasn't always there. Our commitment's not always there. Commitment wavers. You know, just like some people are fair weather fans, you know, sometimes we're fair weather fans of Jesus. We really are. When things are going great in our life, yes, we love Jesus. It's all about Jesus. It's all about what's going on. It's about church. It's about praising God. It's about trusting God. It's about seeing what God's doing. It's about letting Him know that we're wholly devoted to Him. But as soon as things go south, as soon as something goes wrong, we're done. We're done. Something bad has happened in my life. I got to get out of here. I gotta take off. I gotta go. I can't be around those people. I can't be around that. I can't deal with that. I can't do that. Run like crazy. Commitment comes